Hello YouTube. So I'm going to talk about some little difference between cultural difference between Japan and North America, and I'm going to talk about my experience, and I can give you some tips if you're ever coming to Japan to stay here. For example, when you reach something near somebody else, you're supposed to say, "Excuse me," right? Because you are going to invade somebody's space, personal space. So you're supposed to say, "Excuse me," to let him know that you're going to reach near you. But in Japan, people don't say "excuse me" in that case. And that may offend you, but you know, they don't really have a malicious intention, or they're not rude actually by Japanese standard. Rather, you are rude if you don't really pay attention to other people. For example, today I was standing in front of a garbage canister in front of a convenience store to throw away my stuff. A Japanese lady, cut off me and threw away her stuff. And I was kind of offended because, well, last 4 years I was in Canada, and she cut off me without saying anything. So I was forced to move, to give a space for her. And, well, so I felt like, oh, she's kind of rude. And then I remember, when I was in Canada, it was my first year, I think it's the first couple of months in Canada, I was at the coffee shop. I was at the cafe, and I could choose a tea, English tea or green tea or Indian tea, whatever. So there's a shelf of tea bottles. So I reached towards a bottle in the shelf, and there's a lady sitting right in front of the shelf, and I didn't say anything. I just reached towards her, above her head, because the bottle was over her head. So I reached to her, kind of, and then she didn't move. So I was feeling like, oh, this lady is so rude. She obviously knows that I'm reaching towards a bottle above her, and she didn't know that. She pretends to not knowing me reaching the bottle. So she ignores me. I felt that way. But then I learned that in North American culture, when you reach somebody, when you're something near somebody, then you are supposed to say, "Excuse me." You have to say something. And then the person will be willing to move, give a room for you, right? But in Japan, that is totally opposite. In Japan, if somebody reaches something near you, and if you don't move, and then you strikes somebody as a rude person, because you're supposed to pay attention to somebody around you, and then somebody reaches you, and then you're supposed to move. So this may be a tricky cultural difference, because in North America you have to say beforehand, "Excuse me," to reach something near some other person. But in Japan, when somebody reaches something near you, it is you that are supposed to move away, give a room for somebody. If you don't, then you are ignorant. You impress somebody that you're ignorant because you didn't pay attention to somebody. In Japan, you're supposed to pay attention to somebody around you. So the burden of proof is on the other side here than in North America. It is you standing reading a book, a bookstore, and then somebody reads, you're supposed to move. But in North America, it is you who reach somebody, no, who reach to some books right in front of somebody, then you have to say something, excuse me. And since this is very tricky, it gives you, if you are from North America, then you got impression that Japanese people don't say excuse me and kind of bumping towards you to read something, and then you got impression that Japanese people are rude. And on the other hand, if Japanese people travel to North America, then when Japanese people try to read something, and then the Canadian guy or American person obviously knows that the Japanese guy is trying to do something near somebody, but well, unless you say excuse me, they don't move. They don't really move. They don't have to move, right? They don't have obligation. And then Japanese people think, oh, this guy is so rude. Maybe I'm Asian, that kind of thing. So yeah, this is something I learned about one of the biggest difference between Japan and the North American behavioral expectation